Hello, I'm Rachel Smith, and I will be discussing the development of access systems and technology for archival materials. Many people think of archives as a place to store unused historical artifacts. However, archivists have been working on bringing the archives into the present by making finding aids and materials accessible through the internet. There's been a lot of progress over the last 20 years working to find a way to make these materials easy to search for and access. The purpose of this presentation is to explore the history of archive access systems and technology. We will focus on how the implementation of these technologies affects online access and usability. We will also review literature to show how best practice standards, description, searchability, and usability are essential in providing access to archival materials over the internet. The literature review will be broken into three parts: access systems and technology, descriptive standards, and searchability and usability. Each of the pieces of literature will be under one of these three categories. In the access systems and technology portion of the literature review, we'll be focusing on two pieces of literature. The first, called Shelby White and Leon Levy Archive Center, Institute for Advanced Study by Christine DeBella. The second, called Technologies Employed to Control Access to or Use of Digital Cultural Collections, Controlled Online Collections, by Kristen Eschenfelder and Grace Agnew. The Archive Center for which DeBella works has many legacy records and records that were never created until the early 2000s, even though most of their items have been in the collection for several decades. The Archive Center uses Microsoft Excel to track box lists of donations and transfers, and uses Archivist Toolkit to create content lists should they not come with the collection at the time of accessioning. In addition to Archivist Toolkit, the Center uses Duke Data Accessioner and PastPerfect to create accession records for their documents as well as their art and artifacts. The staff tracks reference requests and all related information in a relational database in Microsoft Access. Any MARC records that pre-existed were used to make EAD files using MARCedit so that they could be uploaded onto their Content DM digital content system. Content DM allows the staff of the Archive Center to deliver their digital content and allows them to update their records from other databases to create digital representations of their collection. It also allows staff to link digital objects directly to the corresponding online finding aid and allows printing and downloading of all formats. Aschenfelder and Agnew conducted a survey of archives, libraries, and museums that they termed Controlled Online Collections Institutions, which are institutions that currently control access and/or use of collection materials. They found that most of these institutions were often using older technology that had been out for a while, and that the most common tools used to control access and use were authentication, authorization systems, clips, and resolution limits. In the descriptive standards portion of the literature review, we will focus on the article How Do We Show You What We've Got? Access to Archival Collections in the Digital Age by Kate Cruikshank, Caroline Daniels, Dennis Meissner, Naomi Nelson, and Mark Shellstad. Archival catalog records and online finding aids developed on a lack of customization of library bibliographic records which were being used. Archive collections are more unique than library books and thus need a record that describes all a collection contains. AACR, APPM, and DAX description standards were developed as attempts to create a standard list of element fields and an organization system that would make it easy to users to read and provide them with all the important information about a collection. According to Cruikshank et al., the two most important aspects of description are subject and author name headings and description notes. These aspects are the ones that are most likely to lead the researcher to the collection and help them to determine if the collection contains the information they seek. The standardization of subject headings is very important to connecting related materials in a database, but they only work so much as users understand the formatting and how they are used. Descriptive notes can contain as much or as little as needed. The most important of these notes for research use is the summary note and the biographical or historical note. Cruikshank et al. Suggests that making archival materials accessible to users online is the only reason to spend any money on preservation of the materials, and if users are going to actually be able to find the online finding aids and use them effectively, they must be adequately described. In the Searchability and Usability section of the literature review, we will cover 4 different pieces of literature. The first being Usability and Analytics in Libraries, Archives, and Museums by Jefferson Bailey. Then the Usability of Online Archival Resources, the Polaris Project Finding Aid by Bert Altman and John Nemmers. We will then discuss Seek and You May Find Successful Search in Online Finding Aid Systems by Morgan Daniels and Elizabeth Yackel. And finally, Leveraging Encoding Archival Description for Access to Digital Content, a Cost and Usability Analysis by Jody DeRitter, Amanda Presnell, and Kevin Walker. Bailey writes about a study of web analytics that was completed by a graduate intern, Shu Lang, looking at the web metrics for the Library of Congress's blog, The Signal, for which Bailey writes. Yang found that how effective an institution's web presence is depends on how aware they are of and how they implement emerging technologies. If institutions like the Library of Congress or National Archives wants to use blogs and social media to draw people into looking at their collections, they need to be posting about things people care about. Putting your institution into the public consciousness is crucial for getting users to visit your site and look through online finding aids or digital photographs. A major barrier to users enjoying an institution's online presence is the abundant use of professional jargon, which confuses the novice researcher and can cause the institutions to actually decrease in viewership. Altman and Nemmers focus their article on the Polaris Project, which was a project designed to provide dynamic access to unique resources of the Florida State University libraries by creating an online finding aid and search engine called Pepper Online Archival Retrieval and Information System, Polaris. The Polaris project team conducted many surveys to determine whether online access to finding aids actually affects the amount of hits that a library website receives. The respondents saw a small but steady increase in email requests and hits on their website, and they received positive feedback from users who enjoyed the convenience of online finding aids. Faculty members told them that if the library's finding aids were made available online, they would encourage their students to use the finding aids and their collections in their research. Though the team received mostly positive feedback, they were given some constructive suggestions for improvement. These included tips on how to search the finding aids and useful search terms, a short summary of each of the documents in the collection, as well as the digitization of individual documents. These suggestions can be costly and time-consuming, though it should be noted that digitizing documents was already slated for Phase 2 of the projects when the suggestions were made. 2 other suggestions were an all-in-one search feature that would search all item types at once, and explainer or helper pages, which would allow users to use the finding aid without the assistance of an archivist. Daniels and Yackel tested the ability of users to search and retrieve specific types of records from the Bentley Historical Library's online finding aid system and the Online Archive of New Mexico. They found no significant advantages among the different demographic factors like sex, age, or education level. What they did find was that the type of search strategies affected search success. The most successful searchers had previous experience with archival materials, used Boolean searches, as well as the page find function of the browser. The second most successful searchers utilized a broad range of search and query reformulation techniques. The biggest difficulties for all researchers was understanding archival terminology and determining which search terms to use. This would explain why the users with previous exposure to archival materials were most successful, because they were familiar with archival terminology and did not have to waste time trying to parse the information. DeRitter, Presnell, and Walker developed a digitization method that would allow them to link digitized items into EAD finding aids to overcome the barrier of creating item-level description for digital items, saving time and money. The amount saved by avoiding human-created item-level metadata allows them to digitize more materials much quicker and make them accessible. In their paper, DeRitter, Presnell, and Walker discuss how they calculated how much time is saved with their new method versus how much money is saved with their method. They found that by using the new method of digitization saved 390 minutes per 100 scans. Their new method also saved $78,000. DeRitter et al. Also tested the method for usability by having users complete a task and measuring how long it took, how many clicks or steps it took to complete, and whether the task was successfully completed, and how many positive and negative comments were made about the interface. They found participants needed an average of 3% less time and 48% fewer interactions with the collection described at item level and with the finding aid as web interface, and participants were more satisfied with the item level interface at a ratio of 19:4. DeRitter et al. Believe that they can convince people about the cost effectiveness of their new method. However, there are some challenges they still need to overcome. In conclusion, description standardization is the foundation of access. Making archival materials accessible online is time-consuming and expensive. Progress has been made, but not enough to shift things yet. Online finding aids enhance the research experience of users. However, access should not be unfettered. Usability of digital interfaces is key to access. Thank you.